mitigate that kind of balance towards the jungle side. But so we'll see in the draft how they will play this out. It's going to be Coach Cryptic against the no coach Sovereign SG. Starting the bans off, Ignite Gaming going to be banning out the Chu Sin. So a little bit of respect from Krill Meow and how he played it previously against Everlasting Love.
I think that we actually don't really see a lot of juice in bans nowadays.
Yeah.
You can definitely still see that every now and then, but still one of the priority picks. So if you are able, if the opponent does have someone that plays a pretty mean juice in, it's always a very good idea to go out and ban that out. But of course, that would pretty much means that Lucas, Kimi, they're currently still available. If you are talking
Kalea
about
as
Badang,
well.
Kalea, sounds great. Harif and Granger are also some of the other few heroes, especially in the gold lanes, that should be prioritized, if not banned.
Mm-hmm. For the side of Ignite, though, looking at Jet in the roam position kind of doesn't fit too well, if you ask me. I feel like I remember him back in Alchemy SG as the mid lane prodigy, so to speak. He's always
Bitcoin!
carrying the game, and yeah, it was called Bitcoin back in the day before he actually changed his name Jet in the midst of the regular season as well. But I think he's known as the artillery mage kind of hero, kind of player that positions himself really, really well. So continuing off with the bans. Coach Cryptic banning out the Lucas. Doesn't want to give it to the hands of Sovereign SG, but on the other side of the table, taking out the Fanny, knowing how Icon performs with this assassin. So taking out the assassins again,
Oh,
Joy.
Joy,
Hmm.
okay. So we still have quite a bit of heroes that's currently available, especially when it comes down to the EXP lane heroes. They are still relatively open. Uh, Kimi still pretty okay. Hayabusa, Hanzo, they are all available for the picking too. What other junglers we have seen in the past few weeks?
Hanzo, we have
Joy,
seen
we have
Joy.
seen Lucas.
Suyo has sort of fallen off in the professional scene.
Mm-hmm.
I guess only in Singapore where they don't really prioritize the Suyo as much.
Uh-huh.
It's still very viable in Indonesia as well as Philippines. Not sure why the reason for it in Singapore, but we always see the first priority pickup here would definitely be the Fovius or the Baxia. It will go over the hands of Ignite for the Baxia first, so that means Sovereign SG could very well pick up the Fovius for themselves.
Okay, yeah, Phobias is the question as well. So would that kind of link them into playing a very committal team fight heavy kind of composition? We don't really have all of that currently, picked out by the team just yet to really, steer a certain form of focus to a certain point. Hayabusa and the Phobias. Okay, so technically speaking, whenever the jungler is picked out, it doesn't really quite steer us to a certain direction. I will always want to look at the roaming trio to really get a really good answer, how their mage is going to be like, how their roam is going to like, because that pretty much depicts how their mid lane priority is going to look, how
Hmm.
much influence they will be able to apply onto the gold or the EXP.
Kimmy actually looks really good here for Ignite. Paired up with the Baxia in the roam position. I'm not sure if they're gonna play Baxia roam right now, but it looks really good. Fast wave clear, fast rotation speed, especially with the Kimmy's jetpack as well as the Shield Unity coming in from Baxia as well. Early game rotations all across the map. We see a lot of cross map plays. Loi is actually something that we also need to be able to watch out for, especially for side of Ignite. But they go with the Harith and the Hylos instead. Very zone control, very zonal kind of plays that you want to reach out to.
Okay, so essentially forcing a carry over to the side of SSG. If carry isn't picked up from SSG, then that is a very definite ban from the side of Ignite.
Yep.
So even if the carry were to be picked up right now, they are not exactly they aren't exactly in that bad of a spot because it is a Harif after all. Harif against a carry which have really short range. It
Yep.
just makes synchro fusion so much easier to hit the carry.
Yeah, I think short range heroes like the Moskov, like the carry, definitely should be in question right here. I would say the Moskov would be a much better choice in terms of a tank melter, because it also gives a lot of side lane pressure that Ignite at this point cannot comprehend into the late game because their draft really calls for an assassin in the jungle right now. It will be maybe the Hylos in the roam, Baxia EXP, so you need a hero that has a lot more mobility, unless they opt to go for the Loyi instead, which is banned out by Sovereign SG. Good read.
Okay, so now that is out, we've got a Badang being thrown into the mix as well. Hylos is very likely gonna be the okay. Wait, hold on a second. Doesn't
The enchanters are also being banned out by Sovereign SG. So
right?
I
Oh,
feel
right,
like,
Matilda.
yeah, the Matildas, the Estes, the Florins actually work very well in their composition because it's very death ball. You lay down the Glorious Pathway, Baxia comes in with the Shield Unity, crashes onto you, Harris just does his thing with his aim and force. I think it works out super well in theory. But then down to execution, I guess the choke points in within the jungles will be what Ignite Gaming will suffer in. They have to look for flanks. They have to look for like these big macro plays and just maintain that side wave pressure.
Will we still be expecting to see the Baxia in the EXP lane though? That's probably my question because now with the Hylos is either EXP or the roam. I'm never really a very big fan of the Hylos in the roam, to be fairly honest. So, kind of Baxia roam with, to be fair, Baxia roam doesn't really sound like a great deal to me too.
I
Just
think
lack of utility, stun
mhm.
is my problem.
EXP Baxia I don't really like, but a very good counter to both of these high-low Baxia combos is definitely Gato Kacha, which is something that Sovereign SG could very well potentially look out into, but they go for the Sicilian instead because they won't play in the zonal area. The
Wow.
Sanguine
Okay.
Claws actually traps all of them in within that zone. If my theory is right, Ignite will also go for the Yeef, and then that creates so much pressure down on a kill zone.
So my problem right now, all I'm seeing about is that Ignite for the side of Ignite Gaming, they do have quite a lot of magical damage from the Harif plus the Hylos itself. Hylos does deal magical damage. Well, in the meantime, SSG is a very greedy composition. They have a lot of priority that they want to set onto the carry and the Sicilian in order to really scale into the late stages, right?
Yep.
So very late game centric SSG. They will probably need to find a way to kind of shift themselves in the early stages just a little bit more. Unfortunately, with the lack of Matilda, they are kind of locked in a bit.
So Kimi wide and open for their pickings. They will snap pick that one up. Alongside the Suyo, we talked about the Suyo not being in question, but right now Ignite really going to show us what Icon is made of this time around. Last pick going to hands of SSG is the roam position. That might be Gato
Got it?
Gacha just to break up the fights down on the kill zone to
Yeah.
alleviate some pressure and maybe even reach out to the back lines, but they want to go
Ocho.
for the Cho instead, which kind of works because it mitigates the slow coming from the Kimi and especially the Harith.
It's kind of like it's kind of like either a Jawhead or Cho for me. Cho is great when it comes down to dealing with all of these aggressive crowd controls, and of course being able to kind of lock someone down and make full use of your burst potential as a carry. Just kind of bring people to you instead of having carry going over to other people instead. While in the meantime, Jawhead kind of does the same thing, but one thing that he excels in is the early stages, which is something that SSG currently lacks. They don't really have that strong of an early game presence, and not to forget, when it comes down to the tagging potential of Ignite Gaming, their roamer have got a very strong way of just tagging onto the roamer and just kind of like playing around. It's just like, hey, look, this guy's here, this guy is there. At least Jawhead kind of stops that with the smart missiles. You kind of force them away.
Smart missiles, smartphones, smart missiles. Okay, but I get what you
He
mean.
reaches
There's
the
like more of like
battlefield.
homing missiles
Smash
to
them.
track
Actually,
your
is
opponents.
it called smart missiles?
All troops
Can't remember
deployed.
what I can.
Dumb missiles.
What I
Welcome
do
to
remember
Mobile
is we're jumping
Legends.
into the land of dawn, not before a small little pause to set things into motion. To be honest, though, I feel like I kind of like Ignite Gaming's
Composition.
yeah, composition a lot better. You have a lot of rotation speed from the Baxi and high loss as well. You do have the Suyo, which is one of the fastest assassin junglers in today's meta. However, it falls off really hard in the late game, especially when you're dealing up against a carry. If you throw yourself in as a Suyo into the back lines, try to deal with the carry, you get bursted down by the light wheels,
Hmm.
and that is going to be it. So, tricky situation that Ignite Gaming has to play. Hopefully, it's not a 43-minute game that we've seen in previous
Hopefully not.
series.
This is I would say that this game is very 50-50, right?
It
Early
is.
game goes to Ignite.
You're scaring me with the 50-50.
Oh no.
Because when was the last time was 50-50? It
Uh,
was
it was
it was a disastrous 40-minute game that could have been a 15-minute.
could have been
Could have
Twen-
been
20 if
could have,
you
would have, should have.
if we're kind of stretching it, right?
Yeah, 15,
Yeah.
20 minutes if we're stretching it.
But to be fair, this 50-50 is kind of towards the extremities, right?
Yes.
Early stages, Ignite Gaming fall off short a lot more into the late stages, whereby we do have like the carry plus the Sicilian that should be, that should be able to really deal with the front lines very easily.
Hmm.
And I think that Sicilian's growth kind of grow exponentially once it reaches to a certain point,
Yeah.
17 minutes to 18 minutes mark. He kind of farms up or rather gain stacks so much better from that point because everyone's just so tanky. They're just trying to open up the map with the lot is currently available as well. So many neutrals that you can kind of play around with your bad impacts.
That being said, jumping into the last best of one in the challenger stage, Ignite Gaming on the blue, Sovereign SG on the red. Kind of seems like the Cho will be played in the roam right now, and Boxer thrown into the EXP lane. Very early game rotations coming off from Blade and Kong, taking a little bit too much damage from that Boxer, just spamming that shield.
I will say that right off the bat, Kong will definitely have a bit of issue going up against the Bucks here, as you can pretty much see right here. But it all boils down to a level 4 for the side of Sovereign SG. So you would want to get early turtle for the side of Sovereign SG, but unfortunately you're also going up against a Suyo, which happens to be an amazing objective taker because of Soul Sever. So it's between the Hayabusa and, if it's between the 50-50 of Hayabusa and the Suyo, it's
Ooh.
almost always Suyo. Oh no!
Nice little steal on the blue buff, purple buff by Sovereign SG as Pogyako actually going in, walking in with the shadows, stealing that out of the way. Jet taking a little bit too much damage from Super Lunatic, forced to use that flicker out of the way. Blade trapped in his place. That is the Soul Sever, but will be taken out as First Blood goes over the side of Blade.
So with that all said, it is one kill connected over to the side of Ignite Gaming despite Suyo losing out in that purple buff. It should have kind of made things a lot tougher for Ignite Gaming to even take control of this river lines, but fortunately because of the death that they managed to get from Super Lunatic, it does definitely give a little bit more EXP over to Icon and keep him still pretty much in check, and of course in the same kind of, what's the word, in the same curve, leveling curve.
Turtle starting up. Yuta making his way over to the mid side just to get a little bit of farm. Super Lunatic goes deep. Yuta's healing everything back up. Stolen away with the turtle. Yuta picks up a kill. Pogyako nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. But over on the back lines, you got the Zaman Force from Chu finding a flank. Kumiao almost getting taken down as well. The Protection Pulse not on arm, so Blade won't be able to get that kill over on a Sicilian just as of now.
Very good aggressive plays from Ignite Gaming, playing right into what they are good at, right? Even though we are looking at Pogyako with what, one level ahead of Icon, they still manage to play it very well because of, like I said before, it is all about the S2. You know, you do have the execute mechanic, and it really just deals a lot more damage while your opponent is, low in level. So that is something that a Hayabusa is unable to beat against and unable to win against because you just don't have that kind of burst damage in order to get the Lord down to critical HP.
Yeah, that's the issue when you are facing up against a Suyo. A lot of early game is definitely being lost. Yuta rolling down the hill. The Zaman Force already popped up with the Glorious Pathway, getting pushed back. Super Lunatic shredded away as Yuta underneath the turret goes down by the hands of Night Shiki. As Super Lunatic pops that flicker away from that Suyo icon, trying to find a desperate kill on that top side. Trading blows from the objective on the bottom side as well. You got the Traction Pulse from Blade coming in strong, immobilizing Kong. And that is not what you want to actually see. The EXP lane very, very early on together with your goal laner.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Ignite Gaming didn't manage to get any dividends up in the top lane despite, using up 4 members all the way up north while giving Pogyako some free energy shields down to the bottom lane. So that is some good amount of gold that Pogyako has got for himself. I would say that it definitely accelerated his growth a little bit more. As between Icon and Pogyako, it kind of seems as though that Icon is just slightly ahead in terms of level.
Starting things off with the turtle, getting a reset as Yuta waiting patiently for the jump onto Kong, getting pushed back by the weight of the dragon. Here comes Pogyako with the shadows. Got his eye set on Yuta, but too tanky to take down from the back line. You have Chu dropping in from all the way up north into the turtle pit to take down another kill for himself as well. Super Lunatic Kong nowhere to be found as the turtle goes over the hands of Ignite Gaming.
4 minutes and 50 seconds into the game at this point in time. We got about 2.5 thousand goal lead in favor for Ignite Gaming. Everything is still pretty much in its tracks for Ignite Gaming. The leveling curve is pretty much alright, and when it comes down to goal lead, it's pretty good as well. Remember, we did mention that Ignite Gaming do triumph in the early stages of the game, and of course, with Sovereign SG definitely still having a tad bit of difficulties even in the mid stages of the game. I can only expect Pogiaco to be able to assassinate a couple of members one or twice, but I do not expect them to be able to outright win in these team fights, because Kong, very comical. He's probably going to go in there all alone and constantly just be wiped out.
Top side though, Yuta once again directly on top of Night Shiki. Might be able to find an angle here with the traction pulse, but misses, goes wide. You got the Glorious Pathway laid down. Yuta making a charge onto Night Shiki, but taking a lot of damage. Kuro Meow there for backup though. A little bit of a revenge coming in from Night Shiki as they take him down. That's what you get for chasing me out of the way from my own lane, but they do have the consolation prize of the turret to their name.
Yep. 3,000 goal lead now. With the top lane T1 destroyed, this is going to enable Ignite Gaming with a little bit more movements all across the map, and that will pretty much mean that when it comes down to Yuta that's playing onto the Baxia, he doesn't really need to care too much about his lanes anymore. This is a completely unlocked Baxia, and Baxia with massive amount of movements, you can pretty much expect the Baxia will be all around the map and all around the fights while still being able to handle his own lane up top.
It's pretty much sort of like a double roaming situation that Ignite and Sovereign has. Defova is getting pulled out of the EXP lane, and therefore extra support onto Night Shiki creates some sort of extra pressure onto him. You have the Sky Piercer being built up by Blade as well, so a huge power spike from Ignite Gaming. Looks like the turtle won't be contested over to the side of Ignite Gaming as the Glorious Pathway laid out and pushing Pogiaco back from that turtle pit as Ignite Gaming secures all 3 turtles in the early game.
They're pretty happy with giving a trade between their own top lane T1 and the opponent's bottom lane T1. This one pretty much means that Carry would literally have got no place that is suitable to farm in his safety. If anything, at this point, it's only at the bottom lane, but you can very clearly tell there's way too many people down the bottom.
Look at the top side though. Collapse evident onto Yuta. Might be able to run away. A little nice trade down the T2 bottom side. The Sovereign SG desperately try to go for an objective up on top as well. Pushed away by Yuta. Very good time bot, but here comes Icon with a small little stun onto Pogiaco. No more shadow kill for Pogiaco. Might be able to get chased down by Icon. Sever will seal the deal onto his fate. Glorious Pathway breaks up all exit routes onto Super Lunatic. They had their eyes set on Kong. Mid-air kill by Chu. The Sovereign SG tries to take down one more as they can. Down goes Icon.
Chu does definitely seem a little bit farmed up at this point in time. I'm pretty sure that when it comes down to itemizations, he should have about 2 items to his name right now. With a total of 2 kills at this point, they are definitely wanting to play to the mid stages of the game, because that's probably the kind of economy that they have. Suitable for the mid stages, should be able to deal with the front lines pretty darn easily, especially since we're talking about Super Lunatic onto the Cho. But speaking of Cho, right, we haven't exactly saw any form of engagement from Super Lunatic and any form of isolation plays from him.
Yeah, speaking of which, in mid side, Pogiaco, a little bit of a damage testing onto Blade, but Yuta is right there, being the huge protector, being the huge shield, no pun intended, onto this Kimmy. Night Shiki busy on the bottom side, taking down the objectives as well. But speaking of Super Lunatic, every single time he tries to go for something, he's always getting disrupted by either the Baxia or either the Hylos with a single target stun as well. Lord spawning up. This is the first Lord of the game, and hopefully we won't get to see 7 Lords once again. Oh, nice little Will of the Dragon by Super Lunatic. Getting stopped in his tracks down in mid-side territory. Deep into it. The Demonic Force takes down one as well. Kong tries to go straight for the back line, but damage is too much to handle for Sovereign SG as of now. Losing 3, the Lord should be going over the hands of Ignite Gaming.
Indeed. Sovereign SG tried to play within of their own turrets, and hopefully that they will be able to do something about, stopping Ignite Gaming from winning in those fights. The initial idea is just to go for a simple kick from the backlines. They did manage to kind of pull Blade right out of the backlines, but unfortunately he himself is the one that got killed instead. Blade at least was taken down by Sovereign SG. So their main plan, which is to bring down Blade, was fulfilled except for the fact that they didn't really quite realize that they would have to lose 3 for that.
To be honest, a very good counter re-engage from Kong. Unfortunately, though, he has to deal with 2 revitalized from the Hylos, as well as the Baxia. Glorious Pathway, just to slow the approach from Chrome Yao, going straight, diving deep into enemy backline territory. Nice Shiki taking one for the team, and Jet falling into the hands by the melting speedy light wheels from Night Shiki. Icon looking for an angle from that back, doesn't want to show himself just as of yet. Super Lunatic also sourcing for a little bit of information. Sovereign SG desperately trying to hold on to the T1. Nice little dodge away from the shadow kill from Blade. They don't know where Icon is as of yet. They have to deal with that Lord. Sovereign SG back on that defense.
I'll say that for Sovereign SG's Cho, they are not exactly using a Cho to his best extent. As a hero that has so much mobility, with those mobility skills being able to kind of scale over walls, you should be realistically be able to kind of play kind of a wild game of cat and mouse. But that's not the case. We haven't exactly been seeing the Super Lunatic doing too much when it comes down to opening up the maps and even taking a look into brushes. So far, we have only realistically seen a single kick from Super Lunatic, and even if they did manage to get a kick down, they don't have any form of realistic damage to kind of burst that one person down.
I guess regeneration is the name of the game. You have to deal with a lot of revitalizers coming through. Super Lunatic doing what you told him to, but unable to escape from the hands of Chu down the mid side. Glorious Pathway just to block off the entrances from Sovereign SG. Night Shiki free kills onto that shadow kill from Pogyaka will take down Chu, as it's a nice little trade of 3-1 as Ignite Gaming still showing their prowess in. A little bit of a mishap and a miscommunication. Chu shouldn't be left alone.
Now, one thing that I realized that Chu chose is the Flicker instead of a Purify onto himself. So it kind of seems as though he don't see the need to pick up a Purify for the Cho. I think for most people that plays a Harif, they will always want to prioritize and make sure that they don't get kicked by the Way of the Dragon. So I would only believe that Chu wanted to exercise his freedom to be aggressive or defensive. As such, picking up the Flicker would have been the best choice, and hoping that, you know, or maybe he's thinking that he can gap the Cho.
I don't think Cho is the main problem anymore. I feel like Pogyako is much more of a threat to Chu. That's why the Flicker was picked up to mitigate the shadow kill away from himself. Unfortunately, used a little bit too early, and Sovereign SG was able to get the easy kill. Nice little retribution as well from Icon to secure the second total, the second Lord of the game. Sovereign SG desperately try to get that defense, picking up all the resources that is left behind. Yuta sourcing for information. They stopped. Pogyako found him in his tracks. The shadow tries to go on to Chu, but split damage and double revitalizes to keep him safe. What a play from Ignite.
Seems overused, or is it? Seems like even when it comes down to double revitalize, Chu actually didn't manage to heal back all of his HP. So perhaps it was absolutely necessary for them to be able to out-heal the OG Shadow Kill.
At this point, Lord marching down south. Ignite Gaming has 3 waves pushing in all directions. Sovereign SG needs to be able to split themselves up. Sanguine Claws alone won't be enough to reliably stun anyone. Glorious Pathway laid down, slowly approach once again. That's a stun onto Kong. Won't be able to survive this. Blade picks that one up. As Damon Force laid down by Chu. Tries to get a little bit more damage onto Sovereign SG, but they have to deal with the Lord South as Ignite Gaming tries to split off all of their damages into every single part of the match. We've been in this place before. Ignite Gaming has 8,000 gold lead. The only question is, will they be able to extend in order to win this one right before the 20-minute mark? The next Lord will come out in 100.
I think the pacing of this game for Ignite Gaming is looking to be good, because they are so close to bringing down the T3 down to the bottom, but in the meantime, with the Dragon...
Oh, nice little kick onto Jet. He will be able to save. It's fine and dandy. Nice little kill, a nice little hit to clear out the turrets to keep Jet safe. He's back to full health with just one Revitalize and the Glorious Pathway.
Disgusting.
Utterly disgusting.
Utterly disgusting. Now, of course, we are almost close to about 10,000 goal lead in favor for Ignite Gaming right now. So I would say that the chances of Sovereign SG trying to bounce back by 17 minutes is kind of unrealistic now, right? If you look at the items for the Sicilians, for example, for instance, we are looking at a glowing wand, a lantern, as well as the magic. No, wait, magic wings,
Blood
blood
wings.
wings,
Yeah.
and the blood wings. So 3 items, mostly one defensive, one utility, and one damage. It's pretty not bad, but they definitely need more time.
Nice of the dragon onto Yuta. Kicks him out. Won't be able to survive this. Get a glorious pathway to block off the assist coming in from Sovereign SG. Kong went in a little bit too deep. It's 2, 6, and 3 for this Phobius.
So 1-for-1 trade between the EXP laners. Lord is not being picked up by anyone just yet with the Lord 15 minutes, sorry, 15 seconds until that eventually happens. 15 minutes into the game at this point, so we're looking at about 8,000 gold lead. Ignite Gaming is probably what, about 3-4 minutes ahead of Sovereign SG just based on that that economy.
Get things started with the Lord. Icon. Pull the Lord away from Sovereign SG. Super Lunatic has that Way of the Dragon in tow. We'll be able to kick that high loss in, healing everything back up, trying to sustain as much as they can before the rest of the members come in, but a Shadow Kill seems to be a little bit too much for Blade and Chu to handle. Chu falls by the hands of Sovereign SG. This might be the counter re-engage that Sovereign is looking for.
With Night Shiki as well, Super Lunatic has such a low amount of health. Boy, oh boy, it is such a pity for Ignite Gaming. Once again, it is a back and forth, a little bit of seesaw match going on for Sovereign SG. The amount of gold deficit has now declined over to 4,000, roughly around 4,000. So it is definitely still a climbable journey for Sovereign SG. But remember, I did mention that they are about 2 minutes behind. So if we want to talk about Sovereign SG being able to kind of like pop off where Ignite Gaming is at this point in time, they probably have to wait like until 19 minutes, where Creo Meow as well as a Night Shiki starts to get really annoying.
Speaking of annoying, you have to deal with the Yuta who's constantly sourcing for information. That's Super Lunatic again with a kick onto Hylos, no follow-up whatsoever, getting stopped in his tracks by the Hylos as well. Zycon picks one more kill to his name. Super Lunatic is no more to be seen. Sovereign SG wasting that Lord. You have to wait for the next one.
As they slowly have the Lord prancing up to the top with no form of escort whatsoever. And of course, not having Super Lunatic is super important as well. They're just going to relocate themselves, and hopefully, seems like they're trying to look for another angle of attack, only to realize, yeah, this is not a great spot. Ignite Gaming can just rush right in with the box here, and they are all caught in that small little brush. Unfortunately for Sovereign SG, there even is a Kimi on the side of Ignite. So the moment that Boxer actually manages to find people inside of a brush, you can always expect the traction pulse to come shortly after.
The part at the end of the rainbow is that the Sicilian is infinitely scaling up to the late game. So the longer this goes, Sovereign SG has the upper hand. Very good little high ground from the Sicilian as well. 4-0-6 so far. No kills so far by Ignite Gaming onto the Sicilian. But the longer this goes, man, Ignite Gaming will have to watch their 6.
I think that Ignite Gaming kind of lost their lead, and they lost the advantages that they originally had in the early stages. Because this is the point in time where Studio probably just doesn't do all that much damage, especially to the early, to the front liners such as Kong as well as Super Lunatic. It still somehow managed to get its way over to the back lines, dealing with Creo Meow or Night Shiki. I think Night Shiki might be a better target because Creo Meow does have the Blood Wings.
Know where Yuta is. Stopping him, stunning him up. The split fight onto Jet. Well, there's a double revitalize to keep both of themselves safe. It goes down the red carpet. Tries to stop the approach, stop the engage. The Super Lunatic's going ham. Night Shiki dealing a lot of damage as well. The Demon Force laid out by Chu, but won't be able to follow up. As Sovereign SG will take down Jet as well. You have one more kill onto Icon. Might be able to escape this one. Speedy Light Wheels will take that out. Nice little chase, nice little tracer by Night Shiki. It's a killing spree for him.
There's a 2-for-1 trade. While we do have
base.
the minions that march all the way down into the bottom lane, which Sovereign SG will be able to deal with pretty effectively. Not the Lord Icon again. Once they see the Lord Icon,
a little bit of a traumatic experience, but let's take a look at what actually went down. Hylos and Baxia tanking way too much damage. Blade and Chu very safe by by the hands of the two tanky little boys. But another fight breaks out. Pro Meow takes another kill for himself. No more Icon, no more Yuta. It does look like the next Lord will go over the hands of Sovereign SG. Well, the bottom side is in shambles though, as Ignite Gaming might be able to find a way to have a black backdoor play.
They definitely need to kind of deal with that heavy wave up in the top lane. Icon is the one that seems to be dealing with that. So at least Sovereign SG, they have information that the jungler was locked in up the top lane. So if they want to engage, they gotta go.
Oh, Kong taking a little bit too much. Will fall by the hands of Blade. Hogyako with the retribution still on that Lord, and they disperse. Nice little steal away from Ignite Gaming. A little bit teeter-tottering with death as Icon makes a beeline for that Lord, but nice little retro finger from Pogiako.
Unfortunate for Ignite Gaming, no free Lord for them since Sovereign is the one that initially started the Lord. Yuta started things with a great fight together with you. They were working in tandem in order to bring down one of the main, a couple of the main members in the back line, but didn't really quite manage to yield anything to fruition while Pogiako takes the Lord, right? So only one person dead from the side of Ignite Gaming, which is Yuta. Like I said, didn't do anything.
It's an 18-minute Lord. But as the Lord marching up on that north side, I think at the end of the day, things are looking bleak for Ignite Gaming. There is not much that they can heal up. It kind of seems like that Power Spike or the peak of the Revitalize that comes in together with the double tanks is not coming to fruition anymore. The carry is online, and he's locked in. Night Streaky dealing quite a lot of damage from that back line. Doesn't seem that Chu is able to face him one-on-one as well. So there's a lot of choke points that we talked about, especially in the midst of the jungle. In the late game, the Sanguine Claws it finds it easy to find them and lock them down before getting Night Streaky to just do that damage from backline.
So all in all, I gotta have to say that the timer has ran out for Ignite Gaming.
Yep.
So it all boils down to the Sicilian. Unless
Mhm.
they want to, kind of keep stacking the Sicilian over and over and over again.
Hopefully they have Thunderbelts.
How many minutes in are we?
We are 21 minutes, I think.
Crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's halfway to the longest game that we have literally just witnessed
Half.
previously.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I remember us talking about like the game should have ended 15 minutes.
This
At 50
game,
minutes. But to be honest though, I think that Sovereign SG should play in the late game because they have the Sicilian now.
yes.
Rather than like, having giving them the win in the silver platter. Because
Mm.
now I understand if the game goes 40 minutes because it's infinitely scaling for the Sicilian specifically.
They don't have a reason to really just try to end the game fast for Sovereign SG at least. So if they are able to, then that's great to end it fast. But if a hero is infinitely scaling, why do you want to kind of risk everything and trying to end the game fast, right?
It's difficult for Icon to get to the back line. Even with late Traction Pulse, it's not reliable enough to bring everyone in together because they can always disperse before the Traction Pulse actually lands in. They will make quick work of that Lord up on the top side, won't be able to crash down on the T3. So Ignite Gaming is safe for now. But the T2 is in shambles. Ignite Gaming doesn't have the macro game plan going on. 50 seconds till the next Lord spawns up, and I think that should be one of the biggest fights that we'll be able to see. The only issue is, how do you get to the Sicilian?
I think that the only answer that I possibly have is Glorious Pathway. Or Yuta just hiding in the back, or Icon just hiding somewhere. Wait until the point that they start to see, hey, look, the Sicilian have decided to, kind of step out of the comfort zone, step out of his no square. Then that is probably the only point where Icon can just go in to assassinate.
Both teams patiently waiting for the lot to spawn back up. As Ignite Gaming sourcing for a little bit more information, they have two tanky beefy boys, but it kind of seems like skinny boys when you're facing up against a tank killer like Carry. So Night Shiki and Chromeow truly carrying Sovereign SG on their shoulders as the Lord spawns up. Kong will get things started, getting that reset once again. will be a very tricky dance that both teams are teeter-tottering around.
Oh, it's Lunatic. Seems like
Oh,
got the kid.
a lot of damage onto Blade. Actually got that immortality, buys himself some time to stay alive. The longer this game goes, now one Revitalize already used up, but Sovereign SG tries their desperate best to land a Sanguine Claws from a safe distance to try to get resets, try to get set up for themselves. They want to pull the trigger. You're waiting for Super Lunatic. You have the conceal play. That's with the dragon onto the walls. Naishiki following everything back up. The Glorious Pathway will block up the entrance route. Kong is left all alone to his own devices. His Blade will pick that one up. It's 4v5. The numbers advantage as Icon desperately try to get a nice little stun. But look at the Winions up on that bottom side. Charging into Ignite Gaming's home. They have to force that retreat. This looks like it's going to the hands of Ignite Gaming, unless Tobyako has anything to say about this. We're starting things up strong.
They still have got a Sicilian that will be able to deal with the wave down to the bottom lane, but this is Tobyako coming in.
Nice damage, nice hit by Naishiki. Able to clear things out, and Damon Force will be locked in. And locking in, Super Lunatic take things out of the way. You got Chrome out there. I'm not too worried about the base. What I'm worried about is that Lord will Tobyako be able to say anything about this. Looking over on the backside. Waiting for the shadow kill. Takes down Icon! Tobyako with the steal. Doesn't have the shadows though. He might be able to lose his life to the hands of Blade. That's the immortality already popped up. That is a Winter Crown. Waiting for that time for that shadows. It will not come as Chu will take him out.
A little bit late onto the Rose Gold Meteor, unfortunately. Wasn't able to cycle his items fast enough just so that he can buy a little bit more time for the Quad Shadows. But regardless, they did manage to take the Lord for themselves, so at least that is a great consolation. But because of the fact that there's only 3 members on the side of Sovereign SG, I feel like they are too interested in escorting this Lord to his final destination.
Distraction Pulse will land onto Kong. Won't pop that Demonic Force just as of yet, but taking a lot of damage from Blade and Chu as Jet himself will not be able to tank this carry. Speedy Light Wheel starting to really hurt. Ignite Gaming back on that defense.
We do have the Lord that's already marched down halfway through. Tobyako as well as Kong is unfortunately out of commission for this upcoming fight. So even if they do want to take down the inhibitor turrets, the T3 of Ignite Gaming, that is not going to be possible. We're currently 27 minutes into this game at this point in time. Oh man, history is repeating itself soon.
A little bit of a deja vu moment from the previous game. As long as it doesn't hit 40 minutes, I feel like this should still be an even game. I mean, we called it. We said this was a very, very close game, and it actually is. But it kind of seems like these community teams just struggle to clear things out. Ignite Gaming had the upper hand all throughout the mid to late game, but seeping in to the 30-minute mark, Chrome Meow is starting to hurt, and all his Sanguine Claws are starting to land. Jet can't seem to tank enough damage. Yuta can't seem to tank enough damage, and I think Sovereign SG are utilizing Naishiki to his full potential. Remember, Naishiki is this kind of player who excels in the late game, excels with all the core items being built up. Hold on a second right now. We're gonna conceal play, trying to find an angle onto Jet, getting stunned up. Glorious Pathway will stop the advances from the rest of the team. Kong goes down by the hands of Blade. Super Lunatic too deep into enemy territory. Will not be able to survive this though. Nice little stun from Jet to be able to seal the deal. It's another manpower advantage over Ignite Gaming, but we've been in this situation before. The Lord swans up once again. I think there's an issue with the timer though. Right now we're seeing just 27-minute mark.
A little bit more until Sovereign SG eventually should be able to take this Lord down. Especially since Ignite Gaming. Okay, yeah, there's no way. I would have expected that Sovereign SG would want to make their way over, especially since they still have Tobyako. He's a Hayabusa after all.
Yeah.
He could steal it right under the nose of Ignite Gaming if they really wanted to, but I think that they just don't want to take that risk.
So Lord spawning up in the next 10 seconds. Definitely marching down on the bottom side. Sovereign SG does have the high ground in the form of the Sicilian. So far, Ignite Gaming cannot find an angle to take that Sicilian out of the game just as of now. And as long as the Sicilian is still alive, this game will still breathe life.
And the life is currently now in the bottom lane. This would eventually crash over to the core, or rather, it's not exactly even a crash. It just casually just walked right in over to the base, and hopefully that there will be GG that will be in favor for Ignite Gaming. But they still gonna have to really practice some due diligence, not to be overzealous in taking up these kills against Sovereign SG, because they don't have someone that can realistically be able to kick people out of their base like what Cho or a Jawhead is able to do. So this is eventually a very committal team fight, a very committal team composition. If Jet lays down the carpet, Yuta is expected to follow, Icon to Blade all things. It's gonna happen.
Forward pass three. To kick things off, T3 top side will fall. Ford already in the vicinity. Sovereign SG able to defend against this wave. Ignite Gaming can't risk it though. They're pulling the trigger. Got a nice whip of Dragon onto Jet. Nice little hit onto Night with Night Shiki to melt all the tanks down. There's a monster kill for the Sicilian. Another kill onto Jet. I think he will fall, delaying his inevitable doom. Oh, actually, able to get out safe. Sovereign SG has to retreat, defending their base from the waves that are actually still crashing in. Don't look at the timer, Abstract. This is just a fake timer right now. But it's what would have been coming through.
Wait, is this really a fake timer?
It's a fake timer. Don't listen to it. No,
Because
it's definitely like on the 27-ish minutes, 29 minutes.
okay, because
It's gone so long in
I
the
closed
previous
my
game.
eyes. Yeah, I closed my eyes and I opened again, and I'm just like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I didn't know I didn't know I teleported.
No, the previous game went on so long that it just broke the timer. This is what happened. This is what happened right here. Oh man, Sovereign SG not fooling around. The Lord is up. They are blitzing it down. Super Lunatic trying to block off the entrances from Chu. As long as Chu's not there, they might be able to do it in time. Icon,
There we go,
trying to
Icon.
go for a steal though.
Oh,
Shadow kill. And Pogyako with the steal. Gets taken out as well. Icon goes down. Next Shiki will take down Jet. One more speedy like wheels. There's two members down for the side of Ignite Gaming. And Sovereign SG will be able to live to fight another day as the Lord is on their side.
why, Sovereign SG? Why do you guys like to play from behind? They
Man.
are monsters from playing from behind. Icon, we start things off, right? Icon already bursted his immortality. So he didn't really have any of the opportunity to even be able to, you know, kind of run the retribution onto the Lord, and Pogyako got the opportunity to do so because he's pretty much just out for the OG shadow kill throughout the entire time. So now, finally, Sovereign SG have got the lead. They have two men down from the start of Ignite Gaming. In almost any situation, this is the end game. As Sovereign SG marches down in the middle lane, Super Lunatic catches one.
Nice little kick onto Yuta. Won't be able to survive this. Just buys himself a little bit more time with the Winter Crown. As Creel, Meow, able to just free hit from that back. Taking too much damage from the light wheels. Night Sheik will take him out. That's four members down. It's Blade against the world. The Lord will take this down. And Sovereign SG with another win to their name.
There we go. Definitely, you know, shaved off some time from what should have been, or rather what it could have
If this
been.
is a speed run, they're still up on top. They have the
Yeah.
advantage because it's 10 minutes faster than the previous game.
Exactly. So I think that that is all for Sovereign SG. As you know, that is all for the entire Challenger team.
But to be fair, Sovereign SG is actually tied with Absolute Zero and King's Vanguard with 3 games to 1 loss. 3-game win to 1 loss.
Okay, so that would mean that we're looking at a three-way tiebreaker.
Yep.
Man, I gotta have to really just look out for what the tiebreaker rules are, because this is gonna be a little bit tricky, huh?
Yeah. So we have to look at head-to-head. We have to look at true score for the rest of the teams. We'll have to look at the stats first, and let's talk about this game and what went wrong for the side of Ignite. They had the upper hand all the way through. They had 2 tanky boys that Sovereign SG was unable to take down, but Night Shiki came online. Sicilian was online from the late game. And the longer this game goes, I'm telling you, man, Sovereign SG has the upper hand. Chromiao just keeping himself safe with a distance, landing all of the Sanguine Claws that Ignite Gaming was unable to get close to him. There's no one in their team that could go straight into that back line.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, and from what I see, tiebreaker rules is based on points, game difference, then head to head. So I think that the game difference is the one
Points,
that we gotta have to really look out for. That means
timing,
yes.
and how fast was the win?
Wait,
How
hold on a second.
far away was the kills to death ratio? Is that right?
No, I think the game difference is it only applies if it's a best of three. So game difference only applies to best of three. That means we are going straight into head to head. So who
Mm.
won whom? Whoever is the one that won the most, then they are at the top. Unless this is one of the other kind of situations where each team eats each other teams kind of situation.
Yeah,
Then
doggy dog,
yeah,
doggy dog world.
then at that point in time, I don't know what the fourth tiebreaker is. Gonna have to take a look at the
Hmm.
rule book to get a
Actually, we
proper
can
answer
just
to
wait for
that.
the production to get the stats ready or to get
It's
the
always
standings ready after this because
that
we
will
are
always be
going to
the
jump
easiest
in.
way. Yeah.
We're going to jump into the last chance qualifiers after
Yes.
the challenger seed. So once this is done, I mean, man, there's nothing much to look out for. Very good game from Ignite Gaming. Unfortunately, though, losing 2 games today really bruised their ego, and I was hoping for at least one win from Ignite Gaming. We've
Right.
seen the old Alchemy boys. I know you, especially so, have sort of like an affinity to the. But MVP, we're cutting over to that. Definitely going over to Night Shiki.
Nashiki.
Played a heck of a game with the Granger with the 21 kills in previous series. And right now, 8-1 and 10 for the carry. 23,000 gold with 95% kill participation. Especially so in the late game where it's always being set up, always for Night Shiki to just get that light wheels onto the tanks, making the tanks look like really glass cannons.
I don't even think that they're cannons at the point. They're
Yeah,
just glass.
they're just glass. They're
They're
like
just
wine glass.
glass.
Because
Why
they're not
not?
dealing a lot of damage. The
No, not
single
at all.
target stuns, I think it's only for, I would say, the Hayabusa.
Probably so.
But Pogiaku was just outplaying them all the way through until that last Lord, where he until the second to last Lord, where he was unable to get a steal with the retribution. But other than that, though, I think the tanks were drafted just to counteract the Hayabusa from coming too close to
Mhm.
Chu. But ultimately, though, at the late game, the revitalizers weren't enough. The